All right, let's get the show on the road. Please give a warm welcome to Janice Davis.
And the excitement. Thursday Comic-Con. Thank you all for being here. Round of applause for you guys. Oh, so excited. Woo!
Oh gosh.
I am truly honored to be a part of this panel. I am up here with friends and colleagues, and I just thank you guys so much for coming. San Diego Comic-Con. Yes.
We're here. We did it.
What we're going to do is we're just going to jump into intros and then dive into the topic. Before we do that, I always like to emphasize that in all of the panels that I do, I want to reiterate that we're here for you guys. And so if there's any burning question that you have, get out your phone, get on Twitter, and tweet me. I will be checking the feed and making sure that if we have time, we cover all of your questions. So just know in your heart that in our hearts, we're here for you guys. Yes.
Well, I'm here for the coffee, so. And I've already had mine, so I'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll start. I'm Janice Davis. I am an author of a video game thriller called The Holder's Dominion. I'm also a host and columnist for MMORPG.com, and I do their voiceover work and their videos as well. So that's me in a nutshell. Anthony, take it away.
Oh, all right. I'm Anthony Bowling. I work at Funimation, recording some anime voices. Recently, Ultimate Otaku Teacher. I play Junichiro. Orito in Is This a Zombie? Alciel in The Devil is a Part-Timer, amongst many others.
Hi, I'm Susan Eisenberg, and I do the voice of, well, you probably know me from the voice of Wonder Woman.
Yay.
And I do video games, Destiny, Skyrim, things like that, and I'm a voiceover actor.
Woo.
Hi, I'm Rob Paulson, and I am not an alcoholic. Thank you. I am not an alcoholic, but the day's not over. So I'll be looking for a meeting by the end of the afternoon. I am thrilled to be here. I've had the great good fortune of meeting this beautiful lady at the podium a couple years ago, and she was kind enough to lower her standards for a minute with respect to my being here and let me come and play with these people. I've been doing this a long time. I'm still not up to the level of Tara Platt and Yuri Lowenthal, but most of you might know Yakko and Pinky and Carl Weezer and a couple of Ninja Turtles. So I, thank you. I am, with all due respect to Lou Gehrig, I am the luckiest man on the face of the earth. Thank you for having me.
Tara.
I'm Tara Platt, and I do a lot of voiceover work as well. You might know me from anime series like Naruto. I'm Tamari. And I also have a production company and a publishing company, and I just like being a storyteller. That's one of the reasons that I got into acting in the first place. And so it's one of the things that I love the most about the work that we get to do is bringing exciting characters to life in very unusual and often weird and wild circumstances.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Glass. Hi.
Yay.
I'm a voiceover actress and also an ADR director based out of Texas. You probably know me from shows like Full Metal Alchemist, Attack on Titan.
Wow. Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of them, right? Or on High School Host Club, and thank you. And a few video games like Street Fighter, maybe? Any Street Fighter fans? None? Okay, it's all good. So I'm so excited to be here. I've known Janice since college, and that Anthony guy since college too.
What?
And,
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Throwback.
And, thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Yay.
Hi, I'm Yuri Lowenthal, and I also am an actor. I know, it's crazy, and
Love the
sometimes
hair, Yuri. Love the hair.
sometimes a writer, and when I really need to, a producer. Rob and I have known each other since prison. Is that right?
What's that?
We were in prison together.
Yes, and in prison they referred to Yuri as the Wizard of Oz, and I don't know why. That's a cryptic Oz joke. Clearly not a joke.
We'll figure that out later.
But thank you, Yuri, for bringing that up.
Certainly,
Thank you.
certainly. You might know me from video games like Prince of Persia or Saints Row. Recently, Sunset Overdrive, yeah. And shows like Naruto and Ben 10, Legion of Superheroes. And we're here to answer questions and tell you stuff, so let's get that on the road.
Yeah.
This is great, man. Look at the people here. This is cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So to start things off, you know, voiceover work, it's just such an art form, and we absolutely love this industry, and we want to hear from you a little bit about how you approach a role, whether it's an iconic role or a brand new one. So just dive into what you think about when you approach a role. Anthony, and then we'll go down the line.
Going into a new role, first and foremost, our directors are incredible at just helping realize what they want to do, what you're capable of, and it's amazing to work with them and for them to say, hey, I know you can do this, can you expound on that, and then to discover your character throughout the process and reading who you are and what the show's about. It's a really unique experience doing that, especially with anime, where you really don't know a lot of the puzzle pieces on that. It's been done before by someone else, and the story's laid out, so it's nice to say, how can you take this in its own direction?
I love that. Susan.
Sometimes you have the luxury of getting to know a character over time, like I did with Wonder Woman on the Justice League, and that you have the help of, you're not in there by yourself. You've got writers, you've got artists, you've got a voice director, and they help you shape the character over time. So how you experience Wonder Woman in year 1 of a series and year 6 of a series is very different. With video games, you don't really have the luxury of time so much, unless you're a recurring character and you're playing a lot of the same character. And so you just have a picture of what the character looks like often, and you have a voice director who's going to give you some context, and then you're going to use your imagination and try to build it from there.
Ditto. That is actually a perfect explanation of exactly what I do as well. I tend to think a bit more and come up with ideas when I'm auditioning for a character. Once I got the gig, as Susan said, there are plenty of people there to tell me I suck, or I shouldn't do this, or I should do it better or faster or slower or whatever. But certainly, I think you can look at any character, animated character whom we all enjoy. Bugs Bunny from 1945 doesn't sound the same as he did in 1965. I think that's partially due to Mr. Blank's getting a bit older, but it's also the way characters sort of morph as a practical matter. But as far as jumping into it and being creative and approaching a role, I tend to do that more on an audition to see where there are areas in which I can kind of red flag myself, you know, find areas that I can use the skill set that I have to at least get me a callback. And I got to tell you, man, nowadays, I have not had the good fortune of doing anime, and having a son who is way into it and getting to know so many talented actors and folks who are deeply involved in anime, it's just phenomenal, the extent to which it's been embraced by Western culture. And I'll tell you, now that there are so many people who are able to audition from anywhere, they might audition 300 people for one goofy talking chicken, for Christ's sake. It's just, you know? So I think even now, for me to try to find something that makes me interesting to the producers is where I have to work whatever magic I have. Once I've got the job, they may change things here and there that I have no control over. They may discuss it with me, but for me, it's about trying to get the job.
And I agree so much with what they've already said. You do have a team, you're not alone, you have a lot of information to go on, but to utilize your own creativity and your own imagination is one of the best things you can do. And the way that you go about doing that is you start asking yourself questions. You look at what the image of the character looks like, and you start to try to visualize and get that character to come to life in your mind by thinking about how they might sound, what their world is like, You know, do they have not a lot of oxygen, so does that affect what their voice sounds like? Are there things in their environment that are going to affect who they are as a character? Because you're really trying to bring the humanity of that character to life, because that's what people are going to associate with. And then you start just going through the script as much as you have, whether it's in an audition or when you're in actually the recording session, and you just start asking yourself the questions that you would ask if you were being a detective: the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, the how. And as you start to answer those questions, even if you don't know the correct answer, which you may or may not have, the very act of asking that question gets your creativity going, and it really invests you in that world. And regardless of how you answer that question, you will have made a choice. And that choice will then allow you to be able to bring that character off the page. And if it's just an audition, hopefully what you've done with that character will be enticing enough using your own skills that on the other end they hear it and they go yes, and get you in the room. And then if you make that choice in the room and it's not the right choice because the director is more familiar and aware of what the character is going to be doing in a series, or they know the other nature of voices that are going to be, you know, in unison with you, then they can direct you and say, thank you so much, can you do it less of that or more of that? Because you have given them something to work with. You're not coming in completely empty. You've made choices, and then that allows you and the team to mold it into a character that then you can establish and carry for a season or 10 seasons or whatever you're fortunate enough to get to play with.
Love that. So interesting.
Great.
And Caitlin, I'm going to jump in and throw another curveball at you to our next.
Okay.
When you're in the VO booth and you have no props and maybe no other actors to work with, and you're asked to go from 0 to 60 on the emotional scale, are there any secrets to that, or how do you get there if it's a really challenging scene?
I think we have an advantage in anime because everything has already been drawn and made for us, and we are providing just the English component. So emotionally, and we learn back, any of us who went to theater school, there are kind of two different approaches to things. You can work from the inside out and dig up your own emotions and relate things you've done to the things that your character has done. Or you can look on the outside and determine, how is my environment going to make these emotions come out? And it's kind of like that in anime. I can see what is my character's face. I can utilize the soundtrack that's been provided for us. Music is an incredible tool to bring forth the emotions that you need. And usually by the time a character becomes extremely emotional, I've already created an attachment to them because of however many episodes we've worked on. So I found, very fortunately, so that it's kind of easy to make it happen in the booth for anime. And yeah, it is true though, sometimes you don't have the other actors in there yet. When you're dealing with dubbing, everything is very time sensitive, so you only record one at a time, and you might be the first person in this incredible scene. You have to start crying or screaming, and I don't have a Yuri or a Tara
Same
to
thing.
act off of. Yeah, this way.
Yuri, you have any?
Yeah.
thing to
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir because you guys are here at Comic-Con. But yes, exactly. But imagination is, in my opinion, the most important tool you have as an actor. And unfortunately, as kids, it is slowly but surely beaten out of us, you know, by, you know, authority figures and teachers and everybody, you know, try to, you know, say that that's not as important as, you know, the important things you have to be doing. And it won't really come in handy, and you should, you know, be serious about your life. But it's a key component of what we do and holds an immense amount of power. And I think anybody who celebrates that growing up and keeps it with them, again, I'm preaching to the choir, you guys, but that's a huge part of my process and where I draw strength from as an actor.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nina on Twitter said, what's the hardest part of doing a reoccurring voice? And I know that, Anthony, you mentioned that over the years your voice has actually changed.
Yeah, I became a man, and my voice left. No, the first voice that I did was for Ukyo in Samurai 7, and this was in 2004 or 5. And I cannot go that high anymore in my voice. Just years of doing other voices, the screaming, hanging out. I like to do karaoke a lot, but you know, being in bars and smoke and all that just affects your voice. So I can't go that high, and people will say like, "Oh, you can do that," and I'm like, "No, I can't." It's hard. So that's difficult, but knowing the character and speaking from that point of view, I think gives it, as you were saying, that maturity and that change where it's still that character, but now you're almost growing with them.
Susan, do you feel that way with Wonder Woman?
Well, if you go back to 2000 when I started the show, and then you go to 2005 or 6 when the show was ending, you can really hear the difference in my performance, because I started when she was very young, and then she grew through the series, and I grew through the series because I got more confident. I was rather green when I started and scared to death most shows. So you can hear that in my voice.
But that's an unusual circumstance, isn't it? When you have a character that begins as a younger character and grows up in the context of the series, that's very unusual.
Right.
And it's really kudos to Susan for being able to go, you know, at different levels and make it very organic and believable and all that. Virtually all the characters I've done, whether they're fantastical characters or human characters, start out at a certain age and they're young if the show is a hit for 8 years,
Right.
or they're wacky sounding for the length of the show. But if you actually grow up in the context of the show, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was very, I mean, beyond lucky.
Yuri, Dr. Matt on Twitter is asking, how do you keep the voice of one character from creeping into another? How do you keep them distinct?
It depends on if I'm playing two characters in the same thing, or you mean two characters on totally different shows. If it's on the same show or in the same game, I work with the director, and hopefully the director is paying attention enough that, that if they
Which
notice,
suggests that Yuri is not.
Right, so that's how I do it. I lean on the director, and they'll let me know if I'm creeping too close into one or the other. As far as it, you know, characters crossing over when I'm doing other things, they're going to cross over. You know, I have this voice, and it goes a little bit up and a little bit down and a little bit weird and a little bit sideways, but it generally comes back to here. And what I have to remember, what I have to trust, is that each of those characters is different because of the writing and the character design and the situations. So I honestly can't busy myself too much with saying, oh God, does this sound like that character that I did that one day for that video game 6 years ago? I just have to trust that, you know, as the character develops, it's naturally going to be different than any other character that I did.
Interesting, interesting. Caitlin and Tara, how do you hone your skills and get to the point when you feel like you could compete professionally with your peers or people you admire?
I mean, I think you're always doing that. I don't know that you ever are at a point where then it's time to begin. I think you decide to begin and you just continue to get better with everything you do. I think the very nature of practicing the thing that you're interested in this case, voiceover work or acting, you get better by doing, so do more, whether that is a professional endeavor where you happen to be on a show and you're getting to utilize the work you're doing to hone your skills, or it's you reading aloud at home, or you practicing recording yourself, listening to what's on the radio and wanting to match that. I think we're always trying to better ourselves, and I think the people I most respect and look up to and admire, not only in this industry, but in their own, you know, the kings of their own fields, are the people that always are working on what it is that's important to them and always pushing themselves and always trying to better it, because we realize that it's a journey. It's not suddenly you've made it and that's all you have to do. It's every day you're better than the day before because you're a new person, because you have all the experiences that have led up to that moment that you're at, and you can utilize everything from that to play as an orchestra for where you are now, and there are new notes that you didn't have before that. And I don't just mean vocally the notes, I mean the notes for you as a human being, because you are in this room in this moment, and you were never in this room at this moment before, and so something now is going to affect and change who you are for the next moment, and you just continue to build on that. And we're all our own little clay people that as we go through life, we add more clay and we carve some away, and we get to the end and we're a different form than we were when we started. But that's what makes us unique, and hopefully that's what people are responding to when they like the work that we do.
And I think Caitlin said something about improv classes and about
I was
the
just
classes.
wanted to tag onto that for a moment. I think one of the best pieces of advice I ever received as an actor was maybe one of the first days of college, and my professors taught us and kind of drilled into us that no matter how much experience you have, you should always walk into any experience like an audition situation, very proud of your resume, whether it has 2 things on it or 2,200 things on it. This is what I've done, and I'm proud of it. Somebody thought I was good enough to hire me for this, so this is what I've got. And always surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And I get the most excited about my job when I'm surrounded by these talented folks and I get to hear, oh gosh, what's Tara doing right now? That's amazing. I want to get awesome and do that too. But also never beating yourself up that your friend has achieved more than you. They're on a different journey. Maybe you're heading towards about the same thing, but they're going to be successful at different times than you are, and don't let that drag you down.
And you always can learn from other people. That's
For sure,
You're always
absolutely.
learning.
Yeah, never stop being a student at all. I love seeing that Alan Young, who's the original voice of Scrooge
How
McDuck,
about that?
is still doing it.
So is June Foray. June
June
Foray is
Foray.
97.
And seeing them, James Hong, I mean, seeing these people, and it's like they are doing amazing voice work, so it's always constantly going.
I mean, I'm old and I'm still doing it.
I didn't lump you in with them.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Rob, Christopher on Twitter asks, besides yourself, who are the voice actors you most admire, either professionally or, I'm sorry, either predecessors or current voice actors?
Me?
Yes, you. Rob.
Are you asking me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Rob,
Oh,
you.
who are the voice actors whom
That
I
you
most
admire, yes.
Oh, to coin Robert De Niro, I want them dead. I want their families dead. I want the house burnt to the ground. I don't like any of them. They're all assholes. No, the
Present company excluded, right?
in addition to people whom I just had the good fortune of meeting and folks whom I've had the good fortune of working with before and been friends, it truly is an embarrassment of riches with respect to the people who do this work. A lot of us have done live action stuff. That's the ostensible reason that I came to Los Angeles. I did a lot of on-camera stuff, all of which is desperately forgettable. But I have to tell you, and I have friends on both sides of the camera, but I have never in my life, either before I was a professional or up to today, worked with more purely gifted, yet completely pretentiousness people, devoid of pretense, voice actors. They are the nicest people, willing to help. I've gotten so many jobs when Frank Welker will say, you know, I'm not the guy for this. Call Rob Paulson or call Jeff Bennett or call Jess or whatever. That never happens on camera because there's a vision that there's too much to lose. You know, it's not about how big your muscles are, how perfect your teeth are, how big your boobs are. It's about what you bring to the party. And anytime we do a session together, and I've had the good fortune of working with Yuri in particular dozens of times, that's the show, right?
I love my favorite thing for shows where we have any kind of cast record is showing up and seeing the people I get to play with that way.
It is truly, I really do feel like I'm getting paid to do what used to get me in trouble in 7th grade. And when you're able to do it every day with people with whom you would choose to spend your free time, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, that's just the best gig in the world, and they really truly are the nicest group of people, and never stop. They never stop being creative. I've known Tress MacNeille longer than I've known. The only people I've known longer are my siblings, and I've had the good fortune of having Tress MacNeille in my life for 37 years. I knew her when she was a cocktail waitress. Now, with all due respect to June and other folks who have been around, Tress is the preeminent voice actress ever, and maybe actor too in terms of her credits. She and Frank have done more than any of us. Now, you know, hopefully we can all get to that point, but the point is that every time I work with her, and I still work with her every week, something new happens. It makes me go, where the hell did that come from? And she's a gas to hang out with. So, in answer to your question, yeah, I dig them all.
You know, in all of these entertainment industries, like writing and film and comics and artists, sometimes we can feel like we're in solitary confinement, you know, because we're working on our craft for years and years and years. Are there any rookie mistakes or missteps that you had along the way that you can share that helped springboard you to the next level or just help with your career path in general that you can share? Susan, you want to start?
Oh, sure. Start with me.
You're on.
Susan, you look like you've made a lot of mistakes. Let me start with you.
You start out. What happens here?
Leave it to Yuri to say, hey, I think the reason she asks you is because...
Wonder Woman contact, the eye contact was so strong.
You know, I would say just not believing in myself enough and not feeling, allowing myself to be the character in a room and giving myself the freedom and the permission to do that. You know, when I started out especially, because like I said, you know, I was so nervous in the room, and it was hard for me to relax into some of those characters, and now I can relax and I can play. Andrea Romano, who's a very well-known voice director.
Yeah, let's do that.
The
Let's
best.
do that.
She always would say, okay, we're all gonna play. We're here to play.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I knew what she was saying, obviously, but I felt like I was maybe the only person in the room not playing. And now I feel like I can play, and now I feel I can take moments before I start to read, and I can breathe in a way that I couldn't breathe back in 2000 when I started. So those were my mistakes, but.
I can relate. I feel like even in the literary industry, if you're just starting out and you're writing in a genre that is, you know, can be, some people say the video game industry is male-dominated. Not true. Females, just as much, right? My female gamers in the crowd, yes? But some industries can have a mentality that's a little bit behind and think that, oh, well, male or female. So I know that for me personally as a writer, I relied on leaning on a mentor. Was there anyone that helped you along the way that you looked up to that helped get over these hurdles? For me, it was Christy Golden. Any Christy Golden author fans out there? Yes.
Yuri, you look like somebody who's had a mentor.
Or needs
Why don't-
one.
Yeah,
Why
Yuri
don't,
needs help.
why don't you take that question?
But
You better say Tara.
I clearly need one.
Yuri?
Well, in a way, you want to have somebody who's going to be there to support you, whether it's a friend or somebody in the business, somebody who has a positive attitude. You don't have to go, okay, who's the best at this job? I'll go find them, because they're clearly, it can be anyone who supports you. You know, it can be a parent or a sibling or a friend or a partner who is always there to say yes to your crazy ideas, because what we do is crazy. And not everybody supports that. And it's very easy for most of the people you encounter to say, no, that's stupid, you're not good enough. And so I think just finding someone, and nobody's jumping to mind as a mentor. There are a lot of people I respect and a lot of people who inspire me, but I never had a mentor per se for this. But Tara's always been ridiculously supportive of my stupid ideas. And that's what you need. You need someone because going back to mistakes, you need to make a lot of mistakes. Mistakes are hugely important, and you shouldn't be afraid of them.
Right.
It's the way you get better. It's the way you find new things. Make lots of mistakes. Fail a lot. That's what I recommend. And don't be afraid of it, and don't look at it negatively. And then surround yourself with people who will support that.
Caitlin, I see you nodding.
Yeah, nodding. I was,
Yes, correct, you did.
I agree with that, but actually something Susan had said made me think of mistakes along the way. And early on in anime, I thought it was so important that at every audition I showed how versatile I was. Because if I didn't, then they wouldn't keep casting me. Like, I'm like, oh, they have to know that I can do this voice and this voice and this voice and this voice. And at the beginning, nobody really knew who I was. And doing that didn't exactly establish, oh, Caitlin is this kind of voice. Instead, it was like, what is she? And while there is a time to show that you can be versatile, at that time I thought that if I didn't, then I wouldn't have a job or a future in it. And it was preventing me from really bringing the characters to life as I should have. And I realized that what was more important is the circumstances of the character that makes them different. When you really sit down and listen to my voice as Winry versus my voice as, I don't know, 3 or 4 other characters, it's kind of the same voice. but the story they're telling is different.
Right.
And that's okay. That's perfectly okay. And then once people knew, oh, she can do that ingenue voice thing, randomly I had the opportunity to show, look, I can be the tough girl too. And then I got to play those for a while. And oh, you can also do a boy voice? Wonderful. Do that for a little bit. So I think you have to pace yourself.
Well, I think it's also surprise. You're a good actress. I mean, that's, you know, that's the deal. I love Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson is Jack Nicholson in everything he does. That's why one of the reasons we love him. You know, but the character's different, the context is different. He still does what he does, but we love him for it, and I think that it's about acting. I think it's voice acting with a capital A.
Amen.
And
Yes.
Woo.
so it's not surprising that when you kind of pull apart characters animated characters whom we all enjoy, some of which can be decades and decades and decades old, it's because they're executed well. It's beautifully written, it's beautifully acted, it's beautifully drawn, and you will also find, by and large, that most people who have done a lot of voice work are traditional actors, that is stage, improv, music, stand-up comedy. Everybody with whom I work on a regular basis has some background in a practical acting, you know, non-animation experience. Lots of it, usually. And it's just, I think, part and parcel of why we do this. Also, I would venture to say that, you know, everybody has expressed this so beautifully, and it all boils down to passion. There is nobody, I would venture, on this panel, or whom we're talking about in the greater sense of voice actors, or even really any actors, who started out saying, I'm going to be an actor because I want to make a shitload of money. That's not the way it works. In fact, oftentimes people are excoriated as a result of their desire to be creative and in show business and do the wacky stuff that, you know, Yuri was talking about. So everybody has started as a result of passion, and Tara made a beautiful analogy in that every day you're trying to do stuff. Look, I've been rich and I've been poor, and rich is better. I totally get that. But I would be performing in some way, shape, or form if I were an insurance agent. It's a Jones, man. It's like a chemical thing. I can't not do it. And I think that is a consistent thread through everybody whom I know that is, by any measure, successful. That they love the process. They love being surrounded by the people. And it's just, it is who they are.
No, Rob, I remember you and I talked about that. In Atlanta, creativity comes from passion, and how so many artists, they see a need and then they want to fill that need, like that movie from Robots. And so we take everything we can and we pour it into the industry, no matter what hurdles, no matter what it is. And that leads right into Joseph's question on Twitter, which is, how did Mighty Max, for you, Rob, help you pick the path that led you to the roles today?
How did Mighty Max help me?
That's what Joseph on Twitter asks.
How did the character help lead me to my role?
Help you pick the path that led you to your other roles.
They gave me a check.
That helps a lot.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
You know, that's really an interesting question, Joseph. Thank you. And interestingly, out of all the work I've been fortunate enough to do, that show is my son, who is now an adult. That's his favorite. And I think because it was a pretty deep show for its time. Had a great cast. Tim Curry, God bless Tim Curry. Tony Jay, the late great Tony Jay. Richard Mall from Night Court, you know, Big Rich. And your humble servant. And we had a really great time. It was a very deep sort of emotionally driven show. I mean, characters died in it. It was pretty intense for its time. And I can't lie to you and say, well, I had a big epiphanal moment, because we're kind of hired guns. Luckily, we go from one show to the other and to the other. I can tell you that I was very proud of the show because it opened up a couple of really interesting doors, animation-wise. And I've had a lot of folks, since I've become an adult, in quotes, who have come up to me subsequent to that show and said, oh my God, Mighty Max was a really cool show. So I can't honestly say that it had a profound effect on me choosing my path. My path was chosen long before Mighty Max. I desperately wanted to be a performer. I didn't necessarily know it was going to be cartoons when I was, 15. But also, I think Kath Soucie was on that show. It was a really interesting show. Thank you even for bringing it up, Joseph. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. These are great questions. Sunfreeze on Twitter asks Anthony Bowling, what is your favorite sport, or is it the obvious?
Soccer.
Or is it the obvious?
Or is it the obvious?
Flat
Oh, bowling. Oh, how dare you. Get out.
Well, interestingly, your middle name is Lawn.
It is. Lawn bowling. It's
Lawn
lame.
bowling, Anthony Lawn.
What is my favorite sport? Do video games count as a sport?
Yes,
Yeah, okay,
of
yeah,
course,
yes.
of course.
Make you play
Yes.
with sportsmanship.
Of course, it's
Yuri.
good sport. I like playing online Destiny because it promotes sportsmanship and doing that. No, bowling is not my favorite. Everyone asks that. I used to run track because my father was a track coach.
I'm a runner.
A
I love
runner,
to
yeah.
run.
You wouldn't tell it now. Now I'm like, I run from the couch to the fridge, and that's it.
Yuri, is your hair an homage to anything or any character?
Is my hair an homage to anything or any character? Wow. No, but yes. I mean, I'm such a nerd for all this stuff that it's an homage to everything, even when I'm not thinking about it. I thought, oh, I'll get a mohawk because I've always wanted to. And then it was right about the time that Mad Max was coming out, and people said, well, did you do it for Mad Max? And I'm like, sure. Yeah, that's exactly why I did it. That's a great idea. I totally thought of that. And then I was going to dye it blue for Comic-Con, and I got in the place I'd never really dyed my hair like that before. And he said, well, I have to bleach it before we put the color in. I said, okay, great. And then we bleached it, and I went, stop! It's really Roy Batty. It's really, it's very Blade Runner. I just put the blue away. I'm done. And then I was walking around, people were like, you look just like your character on Sunset Overdrive. And I was like, that's why I did it. So, yes and no.
Great.
Yeah,
So
thank
cool.
you.
That's funny that they say that. Years ago, Janice's husband Eric and I saw Yuri at a convention.
That's right.
And I had brought the Prince of Persia box for him to sign, and he looked at it and he goes, oh, the hair's the same as when I had it. So apparently there's a link between him and his characters and his hair that they're like, oh, he has the hair for this role.
That's right. I'm
He'll
a method actor, and as Tara said, this week is Shark Week, so.
There you go. Right? Very
Lady
cool.
Ray from Twitter would like to ask each of you what your favorite character that you've played has been, starting with Yuri and coming down.
I can never pick one. I know that sounds like, oh, I love all my children, but since I don't have any children, these are all my children.
I love General Hospital.
Right. Some go to the top. Ben Tennyson, Sasuke from Naruto, Kuma on Afro Samurai, the Prince from Prince of Persia. Those are some of my top. Superman. I got to play Superman, for God's sake.
Caitlin?
I agree. It's very difficult to choose. There's a character, though, from Full Metal Alchemist named Winry Rockbell. It's rare in anime that we get to play any character for an extended period of time. These folks have been in some really long-running shows, but at Funimation we don't have too many except for Dragon Ball.
Who does one? Who does one?
And
Piece
that
again?
One Piece show. Okay, we do that. But I got to play Winry for about 8 years. So I feel like I know her. She's my very close friend, and because of that, I hold her very dear to me. And then if I can add a second, there's a new game coming out from Gearbox called Battleborn, and it comes out in the winter, and I play the character of Thorn. She's the really awesome, like dark elf ranger with the red stripes on her face. She's on all the art. You mentioned women in gaming and strong female characters. She's one of those, and I'm absolutely in love with her, and I hope that you will be too.
Caitlin, while we're still on you, Matt asks, are there any vocal exercises you could recommend for aspiring vocal exercises for aspiring voice actors?
Get a voice coach. Even if you aren't a singer, I think taking singing lessons will teach you a lot about your instrument and breath control, and that's the very short answer.
Tara, your favorite character?
Well, like everybody said, it's very hard to choose. I got to play, and I still am playing Tamari. We've been doing Naruto for over 10 years. So it's exciting when you get to play a character for so long because you can't help but evolve and grow with the character. And she's also a character that aged up. So she became more mature through the course of the show. And so there's something that's very close with me and her. But I will say, I got to play Wonder Woman in a video game once. And there is something about playing such an iconic character that is just so exciting because, of course, you look at everyone else's performances before you or around you, and you try to not take what they've done, but use parts of that to feed what you're doing. And it's just exciting to get to play in the sandbox that someone else has built and is playing in. So that's fun, too.
Rob.
The next one.
Well played, sir.
Yeah, thank you. It's kind of interesting how people sometimes will ask, well, it must be great now that you've gotten to a certain point where people just offer you work and jobs and stuff. And yeah, that happens. But man, we audition all the time. And so I'm grateful for the next gig. I think I have a special fondness for Pinky. I really like Pinky. And I just like saying, "Narf." It just feels good. I don't know why. But yeah, I can't, I have really, truly had an embarrassment of riches, but I kind of have a little soft spot for Pinky. Yeah.
Nice. Susan.
Well, I mean, it's, as I've said in so many interviews, Wonder Woman has been the gift of my life, and so she's my favorite character, whether it's in Justice League or in Injustice or DCU Online game or other things, movies. She's extraordinary to be able to voice and to be able to reach an audience because of her, because she's so beloved throughout the world. So that's a privilege to play her, to voice her. I had a chance to play Shakti once, and that was a thrill because she's so different than Wonder Woman. She's a lot older than what I normally play and voice. So that was a departure, and that was fun. But I'd have to say Wonder Woman is my fave.
Yes.
Cool. Anthony.
Ukyo from Samurai 7 is near and dear to my heart. He was my first big role at Funimation, and he was the villain, which was really cool. But now I'm doing the show Ultimate Otaku Teacher and Junichiro. It's my first lead, which is awesome because I get to dive into a character, and I'm putting a lot of myself into it. And since he's otaku, he's very into video games and anime. So they're like, Anthony, if you have any like nerdy references or anything you want to do, so I'm always pulling from video games, and I threw in an Attack on Titan reference that the director Kyle was like, yeah, let's put that in there, and I was like, let's do it. So I love doing things like that, and also Guard B. No,
He's a good one.
Random
Soldier
Officer H. He's really cool. Yeah. That if you ever hear me and he's like, stop, that was me. So.
Get down!
My favorite character.
Over here!
Why, you kids, I oughta.
My favorite credit. My favorite credit is Various.
Various.
Susan, Michelle asked on Twitter, do voice actors strictly stick to the script or can they ad-lib?
That's for me?
Yes.
The shows I've done, we haven't ad-libbed. It's pretty strict to the script. And the writer's usually there, so you...
Yeah.
But then again, if you have somebody like Dwayne McDuffie writing your scripts, are you really going to change them?
Yeah,
You're going to add to it? You
God
can't.
bless Dwayne.
You can't. So most of the things I've done, no, I haven't ad-libbed.
Tara or anyone else, have you guys ever been able to ad-lib?
Well, with anime, it's so specific when you're doing timed work that you usually aren't necessarily ad-libbing, but a lot of times the line won't work in the time based on what the writer thinks is going to happen because the way that you have a cadence doesn't quite fit to get those lines in. So oftentimes you do work with the director in the booth to sort of massage the line a little bit to still get the point, but get it in the time that you need with eliminating a few of the extra various words. But I will say, occasionally, we just get very silly, and depending on the show and depending on how open they are to ideas, you can get a little more loose with the dialogue, whereas sometimes you're in a session, you're like, nope, I'm going to stick exactly to the script and I will do what they ask me to do.
They rarely use that version, though, because it's usually full of curse words and profanity and sexual innuendo.
We are just about out of time, but can you let us know how we can follow you? I believe, Yuri, you said you were signing tomorrow?
Yes, we're signing on
Tomorrow's Friday.
Tomorrow's Friday. Thank you. Wow, Comic-Con. Tomorrow morning we'll be up in Autograph Alley and various. Sorry, A26.
26.
Thank you.
Oh, you can see who runs a show in this family. Huh?
Oh, it's no secret.
It's not different from any. Trust me.
Caitlin? Caitlin?
This is actually it for me, so thank you for having me. I'll be around for the weekend. I have to run back up to LA, work, and then I'll come back down on Saturday, and I'll be around at the Funimation things, just sort of lurking. So if you see me,
And we can find you on Twitter and Instagram.
On Twitter you can follow me at Caitlin's Voice, CAITLINS Voice.
And Yuri, you're on Twitter too.
Yeah, at Yuri Lowenthal.
Tara?
I'm at Tara Platt.
We're so original.
We're very original. And
Easy to stalk.
If you want to see some of the projects that Yuri and I are working on, we actually created a hub website. So it's monkeymayhemhub.com, and it's got all sorts of stuff from the books we've written to movies we've produced and all sorts of fun stuff if you want to check that out.
And Rob, will you be here this weekend?
Yeah, I'm here. This was just icing on the cake to be here with you guys today. I came here initially at the request of Nickelodeon because we're doing a big Ninja Turtle. I'm Donatello on Ninja Turtles now.
Yeah, you are.
Thank you. And so Seth Green, who is Leonardo, I'm Donatello. Greg Sipes is Mikey, and Sean Astin is Raph. And we're going to have a whole bunch of us tomorrow. There's going to, not tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow, Friday. There's a panel, I think, at 11:45, a turtle panel, and then we'll be downstairs signing stuff at the Nickelodeon booth. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter handle is @YakkoPinky.
Nice.
And just a shameless plug. It's totally free, but I think you'll get a kick out of it. I've had the good fortune of having Tara and Yuri on my podcast. I would love to get all these folks on, but I do a podcast that is totally geared around voice work, and you should listen to it, if for no other reason, because you will glean so much information from all of these, wonderful actors and those yet to come. It is called Talkin' Toons, TALKIN. Thank you. _TOONS, and it's available on iTunes. It is free, and you'll hear everybody from Tara and Yuri to Mark Hamill to John DiMaggio to Tom Kenny to Tress, everybody, and more to come. I just did a one-on-one with E.G. Daily, and that'll be up probably 2 weeks from now. So check that out, and you can get that on iTunes or my website, which is Rob Paulsen, PAULSEN, live.com.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Susan.
So if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can find me at Susan Eisenberg 1, because Susan Eisenberg was taken.
What?
about that?
Come on.
So Susan Eisenberg 1 on Twitter, and then I'll be signing tonight. I'm doing a live event at the DC booth on the main floor, and that's at 6:15. It's like a Q&A about Wonder Woman, and then after that I'll be signing in the booth. So please come say hello or bring anything you have that you want me to sign. I'll have some photos with me as well. So come say hello.
Anthony.
Awesome. I have on my Twitter, wrap up. Oh gosh, never mind. Hey,
Wrap up or die.
Wrap it up,
Yeah, wrap up
Anthony.
or die.
They'll
It
kick
is
us off if we
at
don't.
Bowling, BOWLING, the number 4 and day. I'm in a troupe called 4-Day Weekend in Texas. It's an improv troupe, so I'm hashtagged onto that too as well. So at Bowling 4-Day or Facebook, Anthony Bowling.
And I'm at JaniceDavis.com. I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff. And just know, from our hearts to your hearts, creators and artists, we absolutely, just like Rob said, are so passionate to be here for you guys and to hear from you. So please connect. And I'm sure we'll be doing more panels together, because I host panels for Wizard World Comic Cons and San Diego Comic Con, WonderCon. And so we want to keep in touch. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to my
Thank you.
panelists.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you guys so much.
Have fun.
Can I give props to the ASL interpreters over here who've been kicking ass the entire time?
You guys are awesome.
Good for you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great con.
No, I just need to...
And take